Yes,
And
probably.
and after listening to Sheriff Mack, I was just I almost fell out of my chair when he said that, because to me all that did was reiterate my belief that he was the target. So anyway, so he talked a lot about the state's rights, and he, of course, our sheriffs are the highest constitutional elected law enforcement officer in the county,
Hmm.
and he said even if you had half of the counties in every state that had a constitutional sheriff, he said we would have our republic back in 24 hours.
I'm
He
sure
said
we would.
that's how simple it is. But
Exactly.
the other thing that he pointed out too was, originally we had the Senate was to represent the state, and they were appointed by the state, so that you had direct access to to the state senator for your state through your state legislature. If you didn't like what they were doing, you would call your state legislators and say, we don't like this, and they'd get a hold of your senator and say, people are complaining, and if you don't straighten up, we're going to have to find somebody to replace you. So there was more of a checks and balance system than we have now, and that he said that has become a real big problem, because the House of Representatives was to represent the people, and the Senate was to represent the state. We have had a gross breakdown in our representation because of that. So that's a huge issue. And that's one that I think is easily remedied if people would get off this idea that one person can't make a difference. Sheriff Mack was one person, and he made a
Yes.
huge difference. He set a 10th Amendment precedent that we now have to fall back on to fight these criminal pieces of crap.
That's right. And it's funny, Gwen. Uh, the sheriffs do have the power, but the first thing that has to happen is they have to honor their oath. They have to honor their oath that they took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it's something that they don't even know. They don't even know the document. They don't even know what's in it. And it was proven to me when I confronted my sheriff about a roadblock that was set up in my county. And it was to check IDs. They were checking for my papers. You got to have your papers. Make sure your papers are in order when you're driving down the road. Because if they are not, then, then we have to give you ticket. And in my county, as proven by some of my friends who have been so graced as to get a speeding ticket here, it doesn't matter how it happens, what the circumstances were surrounding it. It doesn't matter, because when you show up in court, what happens is, well, we don't ever throw anything out. Oh, no. That officer, he's telling the truth every time. Yes, yeah, he attests to it under penalty of perjury. Yes, he attests to it because he is an officer of the law and he doesn't lie. No, of course not. But when I confronted my sheriff and I said, do you not realize that you pulling me over without probable cause or reasonable suspicion, you're violating my Fourth Amendment right? Do you know what the Fourth Amendment is? He couldn't tell me. Instead, he tried to shift it like a politician would, try to shift the conversation. And the fact is, well, North Carolina law says I can.
You just made the point. They are politicians now. They are not.
That's
they
right.
are not. They're not. They're not about the people. And I'd like to address that when we come back after the break.
You got it, Gwen. Folks, stay tuned. The Freedom Link Radio will be right back after these short messages. Don't go away. You know, how fitting is it to have the Doctor Who intro as your intro, the Doctor Who theme song as your intro into this segment, because we kind of do live in that. It's almost like a dream state. Can you believe what's going on in this country? Now, before the break, we were talking about Sheriff Mack and some of the wonderful things that he was doing. And Gwen, go ahead and keep going with that, because I mean, that guy is a true American hero.
He is, I'm telling you. And I want to tell you the first thing he said after he was introduced was, get food storage going. You got to get food storage going. You're going to need it. So even Sheriff Mack, gotta love the guy. He's a true constitutionalist and is a prepper on top of it. So just my kind of guy. Okay, so anyway, our sheriff in our county told all the deputies that they were not to attend that meeting. And I'm shocked, because, you know, they are kind of egotistical and, oh, well, I'm the law and I'm this and I'm that. This gives them, I mean, the Constitution gives them so much power. I mean, it's so empowering, but they do nothing. You know, they don't want to know about the Constitution. They don't want to know anything about taking care of the people,
That's right.
And I'm thinking, what in the hell is wrong with these guys?
You know, Gwen, when in the old days, it used to be that they weren't called police officers or law enforcement. They were called peace officers.
Peace officers, yes.
They kept the peace. It wasn't about law enforcement. It had nothing to do with that. They kept the peace because they respected people's freedom. You know, and people say, well, you know, if you don't do that, then it's going to be the wild, wild west all over again. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what it's going to be. And I'm Billy the Kid, you know, and that's really what it comes down to, is that people are afraid that it's going to degenerate into a total anarchy.
One of the things that our founding fathers did not want was for people to fear the government. They wanted the government to fear the people. And
That's right.
Why we have so willingly given up that power to the government is way beyond anything I can get my arms around. The sheriffs they have more authority in their county than the President of the United States. And in Wyoming, you know, the state just next to me, we had a sheriff over there who's a constitutional sheriff. And the IRS came in and they were going to seize a family farm for non-payment of taxes. And when the IRS got there, the sheriff showed up and said, I don't think so, not in my county. You can leave my county now or you can be arrested. So they left, but they filed a lawsuit. And the sheriff won. As well he should. Exactly. And the judge told the IRS at the court hearing that the next time they think they want to come into Wyoming and seize property illegally, they might want to have a visit with the sheriff before they embarrass themselves.
Now I have something, and I don't want to get off the topic too much. Pardon me. Goodness gracious. But you talk about seizing property, and a lot of sovereign citizens talk about property seizure. And I've always said, well, you know, Gwen, that's just too good to be true. Because if that was the case, if it was so easy, then everybody would do it. Well, on Friday, Fox News did a news piece on a Texas man who seized a property for $16.
Yep.
And I want to read this article real quick because it kind of has to do with what this has to, and it's legal in all 50 states for the most part. So I want to read this real quick. It says a Texas man who reportedly claimed a $300,000 home for $16 through an obscure legal maneuver known as adverse possession is drawing attention to a practice that isn't new and isn't limited to the Lone Star State, but could become more popular with a housing market still flat on its back. Adverse possession, which allows individuals to take property considered abandoned, has been around since the 1800s with its origin in British common law, and to this day, all 50 states have statutory provisions on their books covering the concept. It was originally used as a way to deal with the boundaries of farmlands that weren't always clear. For example, if a homeowner put up a fence that encroached on a neighbor's property, the homeowner could claim that territory after a period of time if there was no objection. Quote, "It's a quirky doctrine, a common law doctrine designed to acknowledge that if you got possession of a property and no one's been challenging it, you should have some type of title to it," says Larry Morandi, Director of State Policy Research for the National Conference of State Legislatures. But the concept has evolved, leading to abuses and extraordinary cases. I love how they say abuses and extraordinary cases.
I know.
It's crazy. They vilify it off the bat. In Texas, Kenneth Robinson moved last month into a foreclosed home worth $330,000 after he paid a $16 filing fee at the local courthouse, WFAA-TV in Dallas reported. If Robinson stays in the house for 3 years, he can obtain the title and become the legal owner. In other states, it can take as long as 20 years to become eligible for legal ownership. Robinson told the local news outlet that the original owner would have to pay off a massive mortgage debt and the bank would have to file a complex lawsuit to get him out of the house, a scenario he says and views as unlikely. After outraged neighbors asked police to arrest him for breaking and entering, Robinson posted no trespassing signs, the station reported, adding that officers said he cannot be removed from the house because it's a civil matter, not a criminal one. Real estate attorney told FoxNews.com that the practice will become more widespread as foreclosures continue to flood the housing market and the sluggish economic recovery. Quote, "It's going to be a trend that's going to grow more and more," real estate attorney Janady Litvin said. "We haven't seen the bottom of the real estate market yet." Oh, really? Real estate attorney Stephen Meister noted that in Florida, some people began forming companies to seize properties on a large-scale basis through adverse possession and rent out the houses. Some were arrested on felony charges. "People are using this as a sword, not a shield," Meister said. But some state governments are cracking down in an attempt to discourage abuse of the practice. Just this year, 11 states alone, including Texas, have considered bills to clarify, amend, or abolish adverse possession, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. This is very interesting, Gwen, because what happens is it gives people a way out. If they feel like they're drowning in debt or they're going to be losing their houses, then they can do something that, like I said, sovereigns do all the time. So they say, I've never witnessed them do it, but I've heard them talk about it all the time, seizing a property. Well, this is one way that they can do it. And each state is different. So of course you have to get to know the law before you actually go about just going down to the courthouse and dropping some coin down and filing, to seize a property.
You notice what I found very interesting is that he gets the title.
Yes, he gets the title, not the deed. He gets a allodial title. That's right.
And people don't understand that. You can pay for 30 years for your property, and when you're done paying, you get a deed that tells you that you're a tenant. Right. So you still have to pay taxes, which is a rent.
A rent payment. Yeah, you're paying a rent payment.
You're paying a rent payment to live in the house and land that you purchased. You have to still pay for permission to live in something that you own. And they do that because slaves can't own anything. But if you go through that process, you get the title. Now, if you have a deed for your home and you're a tenant, there are ways to get an allodial title. You simply file it in the personal ads or whatever they call them in the announcements in your newspaper for 30 days. If nobody objects, then you take the paperwork down to the courthouse and then they'll give you an allodial title. But this is I